the best way I can help now is if I step aside and let government get back to governing. And therefore, that's what I'll do, because I work for you. And doing the right thing is doing the right thing for you. Because as we say, it's not about me, it's about we. Kathy Hochul, my lieutenant governor, is smart and competent. This transition must be seamless. We have a lot going on. I'm very worried about the Delta variant, and so should you be. But she can come up to speed quickly, and my resignation will be effective in 14 days.
Well, wow, there you go. I didn't think that this was going to happen.
I thought it would be more drawn out. I'm just gonna call it a win and say yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But I saw this, and you and I hadn't talked today, and I was like, Cody, we need to talk about this. Governors, I don't often find that governors made the news 5-10 years ago, but now there are these bigger players in our world, and I think people are becoming more aware of what they can and can't do, which, by the way, changes by state. Not every governor has the same powers in every state. Just FYI. And I saw this, and I was like, Cody, we have to talk about this right now, and here we are.
Yeah, I think obviously the resigning is a big thing, and we'll get to that. But I think a big thing also that I think shouldn't get lost in it is Kathy Hochul, who is a lieutenant governor, will become governor after his 14 days is up. And she will be the first female governor for the state of New York, which is a great thing. And so, congratulations to Kathy Hochul under these crazy circumstances, but that is a big thing. And then hopefully in the future, it won't be like an all male kind of situation. But I don't think that Andrew Cuomo is doing this, as he said in that statement, for we, as in the state.
Yeah.
I think he's doing it for him so he doesn't get drawn out into this impeachment thing that was going to be happening in the legislature.
Well, and I'm glad he stepped aside, because that report is pretty damning. And then also, that is a big distraction from a lot of the other things going on, in the country in general and in New York. And it's not just affecting New York, it's dominating the news everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
To have this just kind of sit to the side, to expedite this process, and because a report like that isn't going away, and that's it. Like, okay, that's what you did. Now, I saw a clip from Fox News. I did not watch it. It just caught it in scrolling.
Yeah.
And, the Fox News scroll bar said, let me see if did I save it? It said basically, I'm not a pervert, I'm Italian. I was like, oh God. And if it wasn't, and the worst part, if it wasn't real, then it's I don't even know how am I going to explain. So when my nephews get older, they're all, my youngest grandnephew, my nieces are adults, their children, my grandnephews are all 4, they're 4, 5, and 6 right now, all 4 of them. And I don't know how, if they were to ever ask me, assuming we have a world in 20 years, for them to ask me, them asking me about, tell me a story when you were young, and be like, huh, you see, my child, I don't even know where to start.
I mean, the whole thing is insane. As he did say, it was about 30-minute less press conference. I don't even know if it's a press conference necessarily. He just gave his statements and everything. He did talk about what you were saying, and that he said that was some of the reasons that he was resigning, was to let the legislature focus on things at hand, COVID, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I think that is true, totally. And I guess that plays in his favor, as opposed to a time maybe that there wasn't COVID and this could have happened. He definitely is trying to save face. He tried to save face actually last week when he had that press conference. And Matt was, I think you were at the gym or you were doing something, and I was messaging you and telling you about his press conference and how he like and if you haven't seen it, it's a crazy video where he was trying to basically say he does this with everybody, that it's not something unusual for him. And in the video, it's a slideshow of him touching, kissing, holding, and he was like, I do it to women, I do it to men, I do it to children, I do it to old people, I do it to LGBT, I do it to famous people, I do it to rich people, I do it to poor people. My mom and
This song
dad
should have
taught
been
me.
praised way better.
I mean, here's the deal, and this is what one of the victims has said. So clearly he does do that. So I don't think that is like, I think that is something he grew up doing, and some being touchy feely with people, uh, as we saw in those photos. The thing is, those photos can be whatever, and we've come to learn that some people do not like being touched. That sometimes it's just a very weird thing. And so again, we learn these things, and over time things change. In his case, though, as one of the victims said, it wasn't just like a kiss on the cheek, or just like a, like he would grab people's face, or like put his hand on their cheek. He was like, it wasn't just like that. She was like, there was a lot more to that. And then we saw that in the report, talking about his hand going down her back and her belly and all of that stuff. So that is a totally different thing from what he was trying to
Right.
put it into perspective of, that he does it to everybody. He doesn't do that to everybody. He may do this other thing that is a little weird. And so,
Yeah,
again, he
don't
was
conflate
obviously,
touchy feely with assault. Like,
yeah.
not cute. I'm glad he stepped aside. Um, and so, like you said, it'll be effective in 14 days. And Cody and I wanted to talk about this a little bit. I mean, I didn't think we'd be talking about it this soon. So thank you all for listening to us quickly, but we just wanted to talk about it, get it out there.
Yeah.
And we do read, a lot of times we just kind of save things for Friday, but this just seemed bigger than, you know,
Yeah, for
this is
sure. And I
happening
mean,
right now.
and just hours ago, fallout is still coming from it. Obviously, with this happening, the impeachment inquiry will probably just not happen at this point now, because, well, he's not going to be able to be impeached. It's kind of like the whole thing that happened with the president. Um, we'll see if they continue on that, but it's doubtful. There, however, is something that he probably should be more worried about and more concerned about, is criminal cases that could be coming against him for these incidents that did occur in multiple jurisdictions around the state. He's being investigated. And so a criminal case would not be good for him. So he'll have to be watching for that. There's also, I believe, about 2 federal cases investigating against him, and those are concerning COVID and nursing home cover-ups that were happening last year. So he does have a lot of stuff that he's going to have to be dealing with as far as legal issues, despite him resigning.
Right.
There what?
Re- Resigning is a lot like closing a credit card. If you have a balance on it, you still owe the balance, you know?
Yeah, I think he was
So,
trying. There was thought that he would try to like, resign ultimately, maybe to get out of being impeached, because there's a totally different perception, I guess, ultimately. Like if you're saying, "Oh, I was impeached," versus "I resigned," you know, even if someone digs
well,
into it, then they'll see some things. But the impeach thing, it carries a big thing ultimately. Like in history books, when that's written, that would be more prominent than a resignation. So I think he was thinking in that perspective. But obviously, these criminal cases are
oh, we
not going
will
to go
know in
away.
about 10 years, you know? Um, can you just imagine in a couple of years writing the history books for the period of, the 2010 to 2020? Like the
Well,
absolute roller coaster. And then 2020 to 2030. I wonder what they're going to call these years, you know?
the sad thing, we mention it sometimes when we talked about education, and like nationwide, as far as like non state books that are dealing specifically with a certain state's history, just general history books. They unfortunately are written basically how Texas wants the history books to be written, because Texas is one of the largest purchasers of educational books. And so these publishers ultimately just bow down to what Texas wants because it's an easier thing. Smaller states don't have the sway or pull. And then, these publishers don't want to make another book. So then these books just get published, and other states sometimes get caught up in that unfortunate thing. And as we mentioned prior, Texas, is wanting to write out history. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's
Texas is just sort of given up, and Texas isn't the only one, but I think it's South Dakota is also working hard. Governor Kristi Noem doing her absolute best to continue promoting people being as dumb as an actual bag of shit. Except there's a difference. A bag of shit went through something that generally has, a functioning brain. Man, so you are actually dumber than a bag of shit. You're like the burlap sack it's stored in. Fantastic. I hope you're proud of yourself.
Striving
Great
for
job,
that goal. The New York State Troopers Union says that it is unfortunate Cuomo's apology took so long. They said that the governor made the right decision as he could no longer effectively lead the state. While we appreciate that he apologized to our fellow trooper, it's unfortunate that it took him so long to do so. We hope that he and everyone can learn from this sad episode in New York history, the statement says. So that came from the New York State Troopers Union. Obviously, one of the victims was a New York State trooper, and others that were assigned to his protective detail. So yeah, this is just and then, in all of this, then there's other people within his office that are kind of like wrapped up in his issues, and were helping kind of cover up his issues. Obviously his brother, who works for CNN, is kind of got pulled up into some of this with some emails and helping him kind of like,
Yeah.
I guess, figure out what to say. And so that's,
Yeah, I think what's going to
crazy
happen is we're
thing.
going to see, what I hope to see is that the Cuomo's kind of go away. There are other people who are reputable and strong and intelligent, and they can lead. And these are people. There are people we can throw our support behind. I strongly believe in accountability as well. I know there's like a bunch of wonderful things I'm sure he's done for the state of New York as well. But being really good at something or doing something well doesn't protect you from criticism or consequences, or it shouldn't.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad he stepped aside, and because one of the arguments I saw was, why should he when Trump did? I'm like, that is not the argument you think it is. That is absolutely not the argument you think it is. So
No.
I'm glad he stepped aside of his own volition, even if he was probably going to be impeached and pulled out. I hope it's the beginning of some closure for his victims, for the people that have brought this up.
It's one of those things. We talk about this whole issue as far as when the Me Too stuff started happening, and you had a new Democratic senator, resign because of certain things that happened. Nothing like sexual assault or anything, but some of these things kind of similar to what Cuomo did. And the Democrats basically are like, okay, you gotta leave. It seems like the Democrats try to hold up their members to higher standards, and when things come to a point, they try to like make them leave office or whatever. Obviously, conservatives tend to not do that and tend to be opposite. I think one of the other big fallouts of this, though, speaking of the whole Time's Up Me Too movement, Roberta Kaplan, who was kind of the leader of for Time's Up, that was a whole thing that was created around the Me Too movement, and she resigned due to her alleged efforts of trying to discredit women who accused the governor of sexual harassment, which I think is insane, because the whole organization was to to hold up women and to listen to women when they accuse others of this sexual assaults and different things like that. That's the whole point of the whole movement. And time's up. And then here she is in charge, and she's like trying to discredit women. It's just like, I just don't have any words for that. It's like you get into these positions of power, I guess, sometimes. And despite you holding up an organization that's supposed to do opposite of what you were doing, it's just a very weird situation that many people are getting themselves caught up in on. It
Right.
makes you think, when you go work for a politician or you go work for anyone, I guess, and if you were to discover that they were, doing something illegal, or they were doing something inappropriate, like what Cuomo was doing, like, do you speak up? Do you stay with them and just go for the ride? Like, I would hope that I would, speak up, but you never know in those positions, because sometimes you feel like, well, then I don't have a job or this or that, you know. But then it's like that's one point. But then to go to another step forward to then to discredit people is a whole different thing, I guess.
I think one is awful, and then it escalates into despicable. Silence is complicity, and that's something we have seen highlighted in, I think, every administration we've had. Um, you know, with like mostly I see with like war crimes and what would be considered war crimes, and how other countries are seemingly held to a different standard in the media than our own. We really should be looking at our own front porch. But I think, yes, going further to discredit somebody is extra awful, but the foundation of that is the silence. I actually think the silence is the worst part, because the second part wouldn't have happened from that person without the. You speak up and just get it over with, and people are more concerned about their high profile jobs and paychecks, when in reality you'd have been freaking celebrated. I mean, just putting it out there, she would have been absolutely celebrated as a chairwoman for Time's Up by challenging and believing and encouraging the investigations of the women. She didn't have to stand silent. She didn't have to directly attack Cuomo. She could have literally just said, look, this is what we're going to do. I believe them. I'm not calling you anything. I'm just saying I believe them, and we're going to investigate, and we're going to support them. And that's the right thing to do. She could have taken a firm, strong stance without devolving into any kind of name calling or, mudslinging, whatever media tactic you want to call it, and not had that happen. But now she's tangled up into it. Is she resigned yet? Is that what I
she
saw?
resigned. She
Okay,
resigned.
that's what I
yeah.
thought. Oh, yeah, I think she resigned a day or two ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then of course you have their staffers and everything who were just in general doing their job, but just doing what you're told is not good enough of an excuse. This isn't just having a hectic schedule and forgetting stuff and menial things. These are people's lives. People go into therapy for this. Some people never recover from it. You don't know, like, what's going to be the tipping point where people take, when they end up dying by suicide, and because something has now happened, and because they were discredited or attacked in the media and they received death threats. It might go out of the media for us day to day, but people that latch onto these stories harass these people and these women for just years. Send death threats, they dox them, they find their families, they threaten their children, their spouses, their families. They show up at their jobs, send hate mail to their work, home, office, everywhere, and it just doesn't go away. And so for somebody to be a part of an organization, to see it and allow it, and then go the mile to not only stay silent but then discredit, I think that's just gross. But at the same time, she should not be penalized harsher than the guy who actually committed these acts and started all of this. Yes, the silence is super bad, but I think we should see more punishments for people who are actually committing these acts.
Yeah. I think when you look at these instances, it's like people in power, people who have money, especially in the past, they felt like they could get away with things, or that you basically silence people. You had like the Harvey Weinstein thing, where like there was this whole group of people that he had hired to like basically go in and basically try to like delete emails or delete text messages and kind of like bully victims into not wanting to speak out, being afraid that if they spoke out, something could happen. And so all of this like things that happen to try to silence victims is just
Right.
disgraceful. And it's one of those things. I think that people need to stand up, and I think that you are seeing that more and more as time goes on, standing up for uh, victims, listening to them. Let there be investigations to confirm everything. Don't just listen to something and then be like, oh, that didn't happen. Let there be an investigation to confirm everything that happened. And in this
Well,
case,
look what
there was an
happened to Dr.
investigation.
Ford. Dr. Christine Blasey Ford with Kavanaugh hearings. It turned out later that the FBI never even followed up on most of anything. There was almost no investigation done. People called and called and called, tried to leave tips, tried to speak with them. They didn't respond. They didn't answer. They didn't call back. They didn't follow up. They did not do a complete investigation. And now we have Brett Kavanaugh, who doesn't deserve to be there.
Not at all. You also have these people. I hear when we talk about these conversations and talking about people in power and sexual assaults or things that Cuomo did. You have people being like, well, or usually it's men being like, well, I guess I can't be in a room with a woman now, and all of this stuff. And it's like, well,
I mean, just not being attacked. Stop being rapey, and you won't have any problems.
right?
It's just
I do think
fucking believable. Like I know what I said, and I'm absolutely not trying to be funny. Like I know lots of straight guys who have never had a problem being in a room with another woman and knows how to respect another person. Like and the same goes for gay men. Like just because you're a gay man does not give you right to like touch a girl, touch a woman, just because you don't have a sexual interest. Like,
well, it also
they don't like. I mean, I don't like being touched. I really don't like it. So like
it also goes for gay men touching other men. Like
oh my
when
God,
you're out
yeah.
or doing this, you
Right.
don't have the right to touch somebody, and many times it's pretty much inappropriate touching. It's not just a hand on the back kind of thing if you're out.
Yeah, you didn't just brush by me. Like, yeah, thank you for touching my dick while I was walking through the club. That's nice. Now, I will say that has not happened as much in the last few years walking around, but I'm also not like a 20-year-old twink anymore. So, I'm older. But it happened a lot as a very early 20s guy, and I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, please just stop, And there was always a certain demographic that would do it in our community, as well as when you see with straight community. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And just it's why stop touching people. And I see that a lot. And the same people that say, well, I guess I can't be in the same room as a woman. Those are the same dumbasses and assholes that say, oh, I guess I identify as an attack helicopter. Oh, man. I'm tired and you're dumb. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go all day here. But
we had a lot of the whole men can't be in the same room as women. I'm afraid that I'll get accused of something. So you won't get accused of something, and then say you were, there would be an investigation. That's why investigations are important and they should happen. But you don't disbelieve someone. But I think that someone that brought it to prominence was Mike Pence, who supposedly couldn't be in another room with any women. It's like, well, what is this nonsense? You're just dumb.
He won't be alone in a room with a woman. And people are like, well, why is that disrespectful? I'm like, because sometimes you just have to get shit done. Are you serious? I've been in a room alone with plenty of gay men and managed to not touch them, and they managed to not touch me. We restrained ourselves. I've even been alone with gay men at pool parties and stuff like that, and we all managed to just respect each other's space.
Yeah, it's ultimately just respect other people, respect their boundaries. When you're in a place of power, even though you may not realize you are in a place of power, sometimes you are, you don't have to just be governor. You can be in a place of power if you have subordinates under you that work for you. You have to realize that puts them in a position sometimes where they may feel like they have to do something because you have this power over them. And so, it's important to realize your position in the world and just be respectful, I guess. But yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Some people were a little upset that it was going to happen, or he's going to take 14 days. He says he needs 14 days to properly debrief and train, I guess, what you need to for the lieutenant governor who's going to take his spot. There's a lot of people who are a little upset that he just didn't resign, but I think we said at the beginning, it's better. It's happened. He's going to be leaving, and it's going to put the state in a lot better place now that they're not having to deal with that sideshow that was basically becoming a sideshow. And as Matt said, can deal specifically with things at hand that are happening, mainly COVID right now, because that's the thing that's hurting cities and states around the country. So we'll keep you informed, I guess, on this one. But yeah, I'm glad that Matt was like, let's do this, and
yeah, this one was actually me. This was
it.
my idea. I saw this. I was like, we should record this now.
So we'll keep you updated on anything that happens on this, and of course, post anything. I'm sure you'll see it, but if not, we'll put it on our Twitter and everything. But that's it for now, and then we will see you on Thursday for a new episode. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
So, hey guys, we want to remind everyone that you can keep in touch with us on all of our social media channels, whether that is Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. You can do all of that at the ComaCast.
And we definitely love to interact and hear from all of our listeners. All of this is not possible without you guys.